Welcome to this week's episode of Shaah or Sheeko. This week we'll be discussing two very important topics. The first topic we'll discuss is Muslim identity, and then we will also discuss colorism in our communities. Here we have some young women from Seattle, Washington, and let's get started.
Okay, so the first question about Muslim identity is, what was your parents' relationship with religion like, and when did they start teaching you about Islam?
Well, I feel like when we first came to America, I feel like all Somalis, or for my family at least, we tried to assimilate to the American culture. So it's like at a young age, I wasn't told to wear the hijab. I just wore it because I wanted to look like, my cousins and the kids I went to Dugsi with and stuff like that. So, as I got older, or after I reached maybe 8 years old, at 7, that's when you're told to start praying. I think then, as I was getting older, my parents were like, hey, you have to do this. This is the meaning of the hijab, that and that. But not at a super young age. I wasn't a little 2-year-old in hijab, So yeah.
With my parents, we all, I think that a lot of times we forget as Muslims that it's our parents' duty to teach us about the religion. And so at a certain time, like when you're about 5 or 6, when you're able to learn to read or to write, they take you to Dugsi because that's part of what a Muslim parent is. And so they're doing their duty in taking you to Dugsi and teaching you the Quran. And after you come back from Dugsi, they also sit you down and you learn about the Quran and whatever questions that you may have.
But yeah, the question was what was your parents' relationship with Islam? I think some of my earliest memories, even when I was 3, was at the masjid, in California where we're from. And some of the memories that I love the most is just waking up every Fajr and listening to my dad do the adhan. So I feel to me Islam is such an intimate, beautiful and spiritual thing, and just watching my parents pray 5 times a day really made me want to learn more about the religion the older I got. It was why would you stop everything and literally drop everything and go, So I studied the Quran. I loved learning usul fiqh, and it was all because of my parents. They led by example. They never forced religion on us, never forced us to wear the hijab, never but they were always leading by example, and just setting the seeds so that when you get older and you seeing their examples, it makes you want to appreciate the deen more. So yeah, it's dope.
Going off of what you said, for me, I think my parents, everyone's been saying, because I don't like using religious, but we came from more of a spiritual aspect, and I'm so grateful for that, because had they not instilled spirituality in us, yes, I wouldn't be because it's hard staying on top of the deen, and especially when you're a college student, you got mental health issues, you got all this going on, but always remembering God, that's the one thing they always taught us.
Literally.
Even if you can't stay on top of your salat, even if you can't do this, if you can't do that, the remembrance of God is so important. Keep that on you, always have that. And then for me, just having because my dad was a big person in the masajid, so it just came with my family. That's how it was. And just even after he died, just hearing how everybody talked about him and how on top of the deen it was, it just reminded me literally I always had the deen with me, and it's something I've always been grateful for, and I didn't realize until you get older, once you're really going through some shit, damn, I got lucky, because not a lot of people can say their parents really kept them on top of it.
Okay, and then the next one is, how has Dugsi impacted the way you experience or perceive religion / God, negatively and positively?
Dugsi.
Really sorry there, because I low-key don't like the way they run it, because I feel it wasn't until I got older that I realized Dugsi is more so it kind of became school, remember, but not teaching me what am I actually learning, what does the surah mean, what am I supposed to be feeling towards it, what is the words of God, what's going on, who is God,
Yeah.
I feel and then for me, my older siblings, they had hadith and stuff like that, after their Quran lesson, so they got that lesson more than us, because once I started going to Dugsi, and even after they left, it was more so always oh, just try to remember this surah, or even parts of this surah each week, and freaking sweating bullets when you couldn't remember or you didn't, and you know, and it just became like, it reminded me of school where teachers would just test you on stuff and just on memory, not actually what they taught you. Like, what does the chapter of this book even mean, or what was the point of this whole lesson? Like, it was just all remember. So I feel like that's the one flaw I had with Somali Dugsi, because I feel like they always used to be like, just remember, and not like, what does it actually mean, or look how great this chapter is. It's talking about women's hijab and all that. Like, I never got that. So I think that's one part that like we really need to step up and do for our generation, like our kids.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. Like, I felt like with Dugsi, like, they didn't really teach you the essence of the deen, you know? Like, they didn't teach you, like, Tawheed. Like, there was no, like, foundation that, you know, that you built. I feel like it was such a, like, a fear-based, like, institution, and, like, they just focus on, like, memorizing and, like, fearing your ma'alin or whatever. Like, no one really teaches you, like, what your deen is, you know? And I think for me, like, I think I got lucky because for me, I was able to separate Dugsi from Islam. Like, Dugsi and, like, the horrible things that would happen, like, it didn't affect my understanding, or, like, it didn't impact my, like, relationship with God, you know? Like, I had my own personal relationship with God, and I was able to separate the two. Like, I didn't let what my experience of Dugsi negatively impact how I viewed Islam, or like how my relationship with God was. So I would say I got lucky.
I mean, no, you go ahead. Oh, for me, I mean, I have a different experience. So with our Dugsi, the one that I went after you guys, they taught us more about like the religion and the difference between Islam and other religions. And so we did have a male teacher, and so we were free to ask him any questions and I didn't have any fear of asking him any questions. Maybe that was my daring nature, but I didn't fear the ma'alin. I didn't have any kind of fear, and to this day I still carry on what he had taught me. And all of, like, whenever anyone asks me like, hey, what's the difference between, you know, Islam and other religions, and I'm able to talk about those things. Or like, he would talk about really like taboo things that most, you know, ma'alins wouldn't talk about. And so that was very easy for me, and it wasn't, you know, I didn't really overall have a bad experience in, you know, in my Dugsi years. So, yeah.
Going to Dugsi, I also experienced the whole memorizing the Quran, not really understanding where it comes from. But I did have like the opportunity to sit with my parents and ask them questions, because they're both very educated religiously. And so Dugsis I don't think with Dugsi, my experience in Dugsi was just learning and memorizing the Quran, but I got most of my Islamic knowledge from my parents. So, but I feel like even in Dugsis now, Dugsi reform is important, because I feel like in our generation, we still have understanding of who Allah was and what it means to be a Muslim and why we have to pray 5 times a day. But I've noticed that with the younger generation, it's kind of like they don't really know like Islam as well as we do. Like some kids won't even know who Jesus is. You know, Nabi Isa isn't that's the same person. So they don't have that.
Yeah, I was saying, going off of what you said, like my internship this past spring, I worked with a lot of Muslim girls, and like literally we sat down and we talked about the hijab, and not one of them could tell me like what the reason was, besides, oh, my mom makes me wear it, or my parents make me wear it. And I'm just like, wait, what? They didn't tell you like why you have to do it, and the fact that it is a choice. Like, granted, it is a sin if you don't wear it, but either way, it's your choice. Like, no one can physically force you to do it. Like, it's something you have to grow into doing. And I was like, it just like blew my mind, because I was like, even at like our small age, even though my mom did make us wear it, she still would be like, this is why you have to wear it. Like, this is part of being a Muslim woman, and it's your hijab. Guys have a different hijab than you, and like, you know, at least explained it to us. So it is pretty sad seeing how like the teens now don't have that.
I think Dugsis should be held accountable, because when children go out to the schools and like they learn about different things, and if they're not able to back up what their religion is, like, oh, why do you wear the hijab, or are you a terrorist, and they're not able to respond to that correctly, we're doing a disservice to our the next generation. I feel like it's our responsibility, and like the Dugsi's responsibility to teach the children about their identity so they can defend it. You know what I mean? Because it is something that's, you know, we hold close to our heart. So children should be able to voice their concern, like, yeah, I'm a Muslim. I pray 5 times a day. My religion teaches me this and this and that, instead of saying, oh, why, like, start questioning their own identity and their own religion, and then leading them to a whole different, you know, path.
I feel like my Dugsi experience, they didn't really put an emphasis on like memorizing. It was like reading, understanding the pillars of Islam, wudu, hadiths, and like when it came to like reading Quran, we had like the girls had a girl teacher, but then other than that, like when it came to hadith, it was like boys on one side, girls on one side. So yeah. But I feel like my overall Dugsi experience, it shaped my knowledge of or my understanding of Islam. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't really like grow up like super heavy like from the age of like 3 into Dugsi or 4 like a lot of like people in our community do. I like started going to Dugsi when I was a little bit older because I was like I kind of want to learn about my deen. I want to understand it. So like I started going to Dugsi, and in like my early teen like formative years, I learned usul fiqh through our ustad, Father, when you remember Ustad Abdullah's class. And so like during those years, like you really learned heavily like the do's and don'ts of Islam. We studied like books on Tawheed, and it was like a tight knit community of like girls who attended for years like the same class with the same teacher. And for me that like was really empowering because like it made me understand Islam through like a non-biased cultural lens, and it helped me like it empowered me to know like what is and isn't the religion, like what is culture, like what are people pushing. And the science of like usul fiqh was like, I don't know, it's like my favorite Islamic science, and because it's like,
Is that a book?
usul fiqh is like the science of fiqh essentially, or the study of fiqh, and fiqh is like Islamic jurisprudence or like Islamic do's and don'ts.
And you were taught that in Dugsi? Or that book?
It was like a halakha
It was
group.
like a group.
Yeah.
Like, we met for years, bro. It was
like a
at
girls in their teens and their older teens.
Yeah, and
their
their
older
older
20s
teens.
and
And
mid-20s.
it was here in the South End and in Tequila.
Yeah.
But like that really shaped a lot. Like I'm very grateful for that. Those years spent studying under that teacher, because it was the most empowering experience. Like you want to learn your religion, but you don't want to like I don't know. I loved it. And then when I was studying the Quran, I had read the book in English first, by myself, and then somebody was like, oh, like there was a masjid open in Tequila, and I was like, oh, okay, bet. So I started going, and then I just like fell in love with the deen after that. Like it made sense. But like the critical thinking, I think, is what is lacking in our communities. It's like remembrance. It's just
so
like
true.
like you need to just learn and don't ask questions.
Yeah.
But Islam encourages you to ask questions.
Yeah.
And the meaning too. Like when I was like trying to memorize Surah Fatiha, I memorized the English meaning so that when I would be praying, like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all praise is due to Allah the Most High, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most gracious, the most merciful. Like that is so important, because if you're praying and you don't know what you're asking for, why are you even praying? Like, you know,
You're just going through.
you're
the
just going
motions.
through the motions, and that's still has a purpose, but it doesn't hit as hard.
Yeah, it's like you're not getting the purpose of what it should be, because you should feel something when you're doing it. Like, and that's why you'll get excited to go do it.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be kind of like a release from.
Because it's like, and then the Sirat al-Mustaqim, like, show me the straight path. How would you even know that that's what you're asking God to do? You feel me? So there's so many layers.
I'm gonna say shout out to Mufti.
Yes.
That's the first time like when he broke down that surah, I was like mind blown. I was like, yo, that's what it means. And like obviously I should have done the research myself, but the way he explained it, I was just like, wow, that was powerful. And then every day after I prayed after that, I was like thinking about what he said, what the surah means, and I was just like, yo, that's so true. Like now you actually feel something as you're praying, because you're talking to God. That's what salat is.
Right,
so,
literally, it's
so
a
dope.
conversation. I don't know if Nomad Ali Khan is canceled or not. But
I agree.
We're gonna talk about that later. We can't do that.
He teaches. He has pretty.
But
good
his lectures are
lectures
really
is
good.
the spot.
I don't know.
His
Twitter
Ramadan
canceled him.
series-
The lectures are really good.
His Ramadan series is really good.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Muslim to agree with what he says.
Yes.
It's
Everything
very
like he grew up here. Like,
Yeah.
he
And, like,
he
He
understands.
was
Yeah.
given
Yeah.
speaker.
Bro, I'm a Muslim.
He was borderline
Yeah.
Muslim.
Yeah.
And that kind of
Yeah.
makes Imran Khan in college.
In college,
He wasn't even
atheist.
Muslim.
Yeah.
He was atheist in college.
Yeah.
Is college when he found out? Like,
I thought he was
What-
born
When
into
he was
Islam.
Muslim,
He was
turned
born
atheist, and
into
then
Islam.
became Muslim again.
That's it. Is college when he found it?
It's not even
I think so.
practicing.
Like his friend was
Yeah.
praying, like he had a Muslim friend, and he would always pray in front of him.
Yeah.
And then one day he went inside the masjid, and then the rest was history.
Yeah.
And really, that's a lot of
Wow.
experiences. Like when I was in college, so many of my friends became Muslim because they would just watch this man.
And honestly, actually, as a social worker, we took a class on like human development, and they said like the early teen years is when a person finds their identity, and so
Yeah.
that's why one of the categories was religion. Like even though they were brought up this way, and I had that personally happen to me. Like I stayed with the dean, but it wasn't until college when I was just going through it, and then I kind of was just like, you know what? Why am I stressing this much? If this is supposed to happen for me, it's gonna happen. And that's when my connection with God just like, it was at 19. And it's like, yeah, I had Islam with me the whole time, but it wasn't until 19. Like I felt like Islam is for me till the day I die. Like this is my religion, you know? So it's funny because I don't think a lot of people realize their early adulthood is where you find who you are, what you like, your political views, your religious views. Like that's where it's
I
at.
mean, because you're an adult most of your life, and then it's like you're a teenager, and then you enter your 20s, and life kind of just knocks you out, and it forces you. But literally, I'm like, I didn't ask for this.
I agree with her. I remember when I first. I mean, I was always super like I always like I lived by the religion and all of that just because that's how I was raised, and I always was in the masjid and all of that. But like it was just like I had to do it, you know. It was just like something natural, and I didn't experience like hardships or anything like when I was in high school, middle school, you know. So then I hit college and wow,
Knocks you out.
that's when like you
Everything.
yeah,
yes.
like
Whirlwind.
you don't understand. Forget studying. I used to be just like Allah, you got me, yeah. you guys don't understand. I would be walking to class. I'm like, me and you, let's go. I swear, it was so.
Okay, let's
hard.
pause, you guys. Growing up, did you feel as if religion got in the way of you being yourself?
Ooh, I think religion I was myself. Like
Yeah.
my whole entire identity is based on my religion. I was homeschooled from the 4th grade right up until high school, so I was always around like Muslim people, my parents, people that look like me, like other Somalis. So my identity is basically reflects a lot of my religion. Like I'm not who I am without my religion. Like if I'm driving the car and then someone cuts me off, if I want to flip them off, the first thing I'm like, I'm wearing a hijab, I can't do that. I'm representing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I feel like my entire identity is based off of, I guess, my religion. I'm not, I'm not perfect, but like it's who I reflect a lot with that.
I don't think it was so much that it prevented you from doing things, but I feel like we all go through that phase, like in high school, we're trying to figure out who we are. And when your identity is so wrapped up in something, you kind of wonder who you are a part of that. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times, especially when I traveled, it was like I was separated from everything that reminded me of Islam, that reminded me of my inner circle, the people that would kind of keep me constant. So that definitely made me like wonder who I would be without these boundaries in my life, without these beliefs that I held so dearly. You know what I mean? And does the essence of who you are stay the same regardless of your beliefs? I think that was more of what religion kind of made me question, as opposed to like stopping me from doing things. Because let's be honest, a lot of Muslims still do have shit. You feel me?
Literally.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it was.
And that's between them and God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What was the American Muslim experience like for you in school settings and around non-Muslim friends?
For me, growing up, maybe because I was that mean girl or something. Nobody, you know that what? Nobody like bothered me. Like when I was in school, nobody. I've seen like my other Somali friends like get bullied for their hijab, or like they would be like about the whole 9/11 situation, being a terrorist and all that. I mean, nobody said it to me, but then like right when I started college, it was like an eye opener. You know, it was like people I couldn't wear because I used to be a jilbabi and I couldn't wear my jilbab because not only because of the Adans or the non-Muslims, but especially my Somali friends. You know, it was like very like
How so though?
it was just like jokes, you know.
Yeah.
It was like the whole jokes thing.
Joke is
no, wallahi. Think of me. I'm not the type of person who takes jokes to the heart. I joke around all the time.
Yeah.
But like some jokes, you like think about it. You know what I mean? And you
What
just
they mean.
yeah, and let's be honest. You want to be just like your friends, you know.
Yeah.
You want to fit in with your little crew and all of that. So when I started college, you know, I just wanted like. They would say the little comments, you know, and then I was like, you know what, let me just start wearing my scarf, you know? So I just the scarf just so I felt comfortable around the people that I was around. Set aside what the Gala people were saying. I just wanted to feel comfortable with my friends. And then I graduated. Then I started wearing my jilbab again. Then I started work. And I was denied of a promotion just because I wore the jilbab, because they were like,
Get
you're
out.
not the face of the clinic.
Wow.
So then I was like, stuff like that, like it just started hitting me these couple of past years. It was never a problem when I was growing up because I was that tough girl, like you couldn't mess with me type of thing. But like when you like have to hold your job, you can't lose that job type of thing, you have to just be like, okay then, So that's the main thing I experienced now. Not before, but like now.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry, I was thinking about what you said, and I was trying to I was relating it to something else, and I wanted to know.
So what was the American Muslim experience like in school settings and around non-Muslim friends?
Okay. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, I think going to a school full of, because I'm black in the end, especially in the U.S., you're always gonna be told you're black, and so basically starting school with people of color. Elementary was all black kids, and then middle school was students of color, and then it was high school when I really realized it, because I was in white spaces. That's the first time I ever dealt with white people, so it's just kind of like I didn't know what was being attacked first, my religion or my hijab. So or my race. So it was like a constant battle, and then on top of that, you're a woman. So it's just, for me, my experience has been like having to defend all three identities.
Constantly.
And then on top of that, the erasure, I don't know the word. You know the word I'm trying to say. I thought I'm saying it wrong. From both sides, what is it called? From the Muslim side, them not, the minute we start talking about black issues, suddenly it's one ummah, and then and then on the other side of like with Somalis, not a lot of them even saying they're black. So it's just kind of like this constant battle between your identities, and it's just like, thank God religion's there, religion keeps you strong, and then the type of person I am, so like you saying I wouldn't be able to flick somebody off, I'm like, that kind of like frustrates me, because I feel like hijabis get put on a pedestal, like
Literally.
we're the face of Islam, we have to be like this, and it's like,
Every movie made.
yeah, I agree, like we are the face of Islam, that's the first thing you see, but also it's like, we can't be human, we can't fuck up, we can't like, like if I do get mad, am I not allowed to? Obviously, it's not good to react like on first if you're angry, But then again, it's like we are made human. Like if I get mad, you cut me off. And for me, I can't hold my tongue. Like if you say some shit, I'm gonna say some shit too. Like so it's just like that's always been the constant thing, because it's like in classrooms and stuff like that, I don't do well with like racist BS or anybody just saying shit, so or Islamophobia. I'm gonna be the first one to be like, as a Muslim, that's incorrect, and like having to defend my people, and then like people being like, oh, you're Muslim, why are you so loud? Like, why are you? And then that gets back to why are you loud black woman, basically. So it's just like always seeing the identities you have, because you don't know which one they see first, the hijab, your race, or the fact that you're a woman. So I think in America, that's what it's been for me.
Yeah, intersectionality is so important, because it's like we carry all of these identities. Like we're not just Muslim, we're not just black, we're not just Somali, we're not just wherever we're from. We're like all three of them. We have to carry that at all times.
The constant juggling of all like
Literally.
identities.
But like, man, I remember like growing up in like middle school and high school, and it'd be time for prayer, and people would be like, Arda, don't you gotta go pray?
Yeah.
So
like non-Muslims checking you, letting you know,
yeah,
aren't you gonna go pray now?
Aren't you gonna go pray now? Like that was always really cool. But then in college, I feel like that's when Islamophobia kind of got like bigger.
Yeah. It's definitely now. Is praying a problem for you guys at the workspace?
Nope.
No.
Nah.
I mean, I feel like some. No, okay, so just because my job is white, I'm talking the whitest it gets, like I'm talking white,
Do you work for a private company?
Yeah, so what they do, so they're, they can't say, no, you can't pray. They just go, yeah, you can pray. Bruh, right, prayer time, duh time, meeting time. I gotta go pray, and they know, so it's like, and then I'm like, okay, fine, I'm gonna go after the meeting.
I'm good as well.
So then right after my meeting, Asr time, they're like, oh hey, they call me. It's like they know the times I have to pray, So it's like they don't even they can't, obviously, if I say, hey, I'm gonna go pray, like they can't say no. Or like when I first started job, I'm like, is it okay for me to pray, certain times? I'll give you my schedule. They can't say no because they don't want to look bad, They'll say yes, but they'll find excuses,
They'll make it hard on you.
That is the most bothering thing to me, especially like someone that like it bothers me to not pray, and it bothers me to do certain things. So I have to crunch everything, you know.
And it takes all of 5 minutes, so it's like
and it's
literally 5 minutes.
disrespectful.
I try to make it so fast so nobody notices, but it's like.
And it's like in the winters, all the prayers are
It's
so
back to
close.
back.
They're like, damn, we gotta go pray again.
Bro, this one black
I'm like, if you only knew the sun.
only one person understands my job, and she goes, I got you. And I'm like, every hour, because you know I be going to meetings like every 2 hours, and that's the 2 hours I gotta go.
That you gotta go pray.
So it's like, can y'all adjust your meetings?
No,
But
and it got to a point where I legit, like, when my bosses would start making a problem of it, I'd be like, yo, I gotta go use the bathroom. Like, and you can't say no. What are you gonna do? Like, I'm gonna pee on myself. Like, and then I would just go to the bathroom area and take a left and go to the prayer area. And they'd be like, where did you go? And I was like, bathroom, prayer. Like, you would have gave me the same amount of time. So I don't understand what the big deal is.
Literally. In Rita, I used to pray in the fitting rooms, like, real quick, like, to go in with the hella clothes. Right? Literally.
Right. Yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah, I feel like you're constantly like growing up in this country. Like I feel like you're constantly on defense mode. Like everybody, you're like, why they look at me that way? Like, is it because of is it because I'm black? Is it because I'm Muslim? It's like, what is it? You know? So I feel like for me, I'm always on defense mode, no matter who the hell I'm around.
Or like, or just like when you're wearing, because I usually wear dresses or, you know, my abayas or skirts, and so there will be some remarks like what century I'm living in, or you know, just certain things that I would have to check, you know, like, yeah, I'm living in the 18th century.
You need to catch up to me.
Right.
And who do you hear this from?
Like most of them, like, you know, Agam people, you know,
The fringes.
yeah,
White people.
But they're older?
They're older, yeah, they're older. It's never the younger ones. It's usually the older ones.
I'd be
and so-
I
quick to
feel
let
like
them know
it's
too.
the younger ones too. The younger ones know to not say
No,
something
they're scary.
stupid.
Yes.
They're all shy.
They don't know what to expect, so they're hella scary. Like,
I've never received that from younger ones. It's always like the older ones, because maybe they grew up in that century of like. You
But
know,
we're not in that
wearing-
Baby girl, it's still the same century.
I'm not sure. But I'm just saying.
That's a truth. I'm gone and I'm here with that. Like, I feel like people need to realize
crazy 'cause,
they need to be
like-
called out on it because they're the ones teaching these younger kids, and that's how it continues.
It's
It's
a
a cycle.
cycle.
People
So I
talking
don't
about
feel
Jim
bad.
Crow wasn't yesterday.
No,
Right.
No, like
People
everything
still
was just
alive.
right around the corner.
happened.
It's still
Like
alive.
Civil rights.
some
is
people,
really
their
not
just-
grandparents
Yeah,
still
said,
own
like-
slaves. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Like,
There was like a
we-
comment on Twitter that said almost like every white person has a racist grandparent. That was kind of
Literally.
mind-boggling to believe.
forget that
That's like
parent.
a
Forget
parent.
that.
Yeah, if you're talking about
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
and why is it
Yeah.
just only like they shouldn't
Yeah.
have at all? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not over yet, but people, I do think people like generational.
yesterday.
I think what pisses me
No.
off the most is I actually appreciate like front racism because you can do something
Yeah.
about it. I
Rather
hate
than that
the
undercover
constant-
shit.
that's what I hate
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
living
South
in
Seattle
Seattle,
shit is
bro.
undercover. If you go to the
Undercover.
South, you see Confederate flags, okay, I know not to go to that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here in Seattle,
here-
it'd be like,
They'll have Black Lives Matter on their thing and be the same person. They see a white
Don't call
guy clutching their
police.
purse. Don't call the police.
on you.
Like, where's the
Yeah.
on them?
Right.
Call the
Yeah.
police.
Yo, the most passive aggressiveness really gets on my nerves.
So
like
much.
the other day, I went to go talk to the College of Built Environments at University of Washington, and I was trying to meet with an advisor there. So I called ahead of time, and they were like, "Oh, the advisor's available. She's not doing anything." So I show up. I go to the front desk. I'm like, "Hey, I'm here to see." I think her name was Laura or something like that. And they're like, "Yeah, let me go check to see if she's free right now. I'll be right back." He goes and checks on her, comes back. He goes, "Yeah, she's not doing anything. You're welcome to go back there." I'm like, dope. So I walk back to her office, knock on the door. She's sitting there chopping it up with some other lady that works in the office, right? They're literally just joking around, not doing shit. As soon as she sees me, like the look on her face was like,
Oh, you.
"Oh, can I help you?" And I was like,
Don't you work here?
you feel me? And I was like,
Right.
"Oh, well, he just told me that you were free to meet." I called ahead of time. I just had a few questions about next quarter. And she was like, "Oh, actually, I'm really busy. I have a meeting in 10 minutes.
You're talking
she's
to
a
someone.
college advisor?
Literally, I have a meeing in 10 minutes. But you know what? You can take my email down, or you can make an appointment for next week. My registration is tomorrow. You
Of
feel me?
course it would.
So I'm like, "Oh, well, he told me you weren't doing anything." She goes, "Yeah, he must have been mistaken."
Was it
And
because
her-
you're sitting here talking to somebody?
You feel me?
Right.
And the girl that's sitting there looking at her like, "What's going on?" You feel me? And I was just like, "You know what? I actually just have one question. Is this class available this quarter or not?"
Wow.
And she
That's
was like,
it.
no, actually it's not. And I was like, okay, thank you. I just like, I don't want your email. I don't want to talk to you. Like, her face was just like, you could see it immediately. She was not expecting a person of color and a Muslim at that. You know what I mean? She was just like, oh, what, like, who are you? You know what I mean? And well, I was so irritated. I was so mad. I was just like, yo, I try to come to you for help. Like, I'm literally, this is your job. And you can't even do it because you have all of these biases. Like,
advisors are the words, and counselors are the words.
It made me so upset.
They're the hegemon that hinders.
And that's what, like, gets students. That's what the students of color. You got to deal with issues like that on top of the stress of college. Like, damn.
I remember one of my friends. Can you say that a little bit louder, sis? That was really.
Their advisors are the hegemon of student of color for, you know, not letting them.
Yes, amen to that.
They do.
Yeah.
When did you start defining/redefining religion for yourself, and how did it affect your relationships or your life?
I think when you go through a hardship, that's when like religion either begins to take an extremely negative or extremely positive effect on your life. At least for me, like as things start to become more challenging in the dunya, you start to take, I guess, more stock of what religion is actually doing for you, and what are you doing for Allah, and what is that relationship like. And before that, as kids, like we grew up in these Dugsi environments, and we're just like, oh, alif ba ta, you know, we learn the Quran, we learn the Hadith. We have no idea what any of it means. We're just like, you know what I mean? Like we know Allah is supposed to be there for us, and if we don't do what we want, what He wants, He's gonna punish us. That's literally our understanding of Islam. You know, and as you get older, that understanding does not suffice the complexities of life. Like you have to redefine Islam for yourself. And so I think that would be the point, is when things start to get very complicated in your own life, and you start to like restock what Islam means.
I would say like age 13 for me, like 7th grade, probably 12 actually. Like something like a very like major life event happened that did kind of push me to like try to make sense of it and learn about the religion. And then from like 12 to like 19, I was like a lot like just very like I studied the religion a lot more heavily. And then in my early 20s, I felt like it was another like religious awakening. Because I've always been like a deeply spiritual person, but like Shabazz said, it was definitely like something pushed me to like, what is the Quran, like what it was a very like traumatic, crazy life experience, but like it really, like through hardships come ease. It draws you closer to the religion, you know. And so I'm grateful to have like by choice studied the religion at such a young age, and put myself into those Islamic environments. But like it was definitely like it was me trying to make sense of this crazy dunya, and like why did God make this happen, and what was the meaning behind all of it.
For me, I would say I think that we all go through different stages of, you know, how spiritual, of how religious we are.
A roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster, yeah. And so for me, in 2013, when I graduated from Eastern, I went and did a 2-year program with the Peace Corps. And so, and I was in Malawi for 2 years, and I was placed in a village by myself with no, with no electricity.
Malawi,
with no
is
running
that in Africa?
Yeah, Southeast Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. With no electricity, with no running water, and I was just the only American there, and so it was just a life experience because you're essentially alone. Like your experience, everything, the people that you're around don't really understand what you're going through, and so, you mean, that time, like I was going through a lot of spirituality, you know, a lot of things, and so just to see how the people interacted with themselves and how they had so much faith in God, despite of them being, you know, Christian or Muslim, and they all lived among each other.
Wow.
And so that, to me, was like, it was a very beautiful thing. And to see that they had close to nothing, but they will always share something with you. Yeah. And to, you know, and then they will also give you like spiritual advices, even though they were Christian, you know. So it's, to me, that like it helped me redefine, like, you know, sometimes everything's not black and white, you know. You can take your spirituality from someone who is not from the same religion as you, And so, and you can definitely talk to them about God and the relationship, the love and respect that you have for God. And so that to me was a breaking point for me, because I really, that's when I started reconnecting with God and seeing that, like there's different ways you can, identify as a Muslim and how you practice your religion for your own good and for your own sanity. And it doesn't have to be what everyone says, So it's what you like and what you like to do. And so those 2 years were such a good point of my life, and that when I came back, I brought that with me. I brought that spirituality with me. And so a lot of times, we have to go through something. We have to see things in a different light. You have to go to a different environment to realize what your spirituality is and how you define yourself and how you see God is, so that's what it is.
To kind of build off of that, I think one of the most beautiful things about like, going somewhere else and like realizing other people's spirituality is like, so I spent a year in Thailand, and I lived in like a Muslim environment in the south of Thailand, so predominantly everyone there is Muslim. And when I went there, my iman wasn't the highest. I was kind of I was a Muslim by name more than anything else. And like you see people there who wallahi, like you look at them and you don't identify them as a Muslim. You know what I mean? Like you're like, you don't look like a Muslim. I would never think that you're a Muslim, right? But this person will pray 5 times a day. Will be the first one to like remind you, say, hey, I have to go to the masjid. You know what I mean? Like they're like during Ramadan, like they're in their spirit, the way they talk to people, the way they practice every aspect of the obligatory parts of Islam was so like wholehearted that it literally made me take a step back. Like if you look at me and the girl sitting next to me, I look like a Muslim and she doesn't. But if Allah were weighing our deeds, she probably is doing way better than I am right now. You know what I mean? And that was just like the first time, especially coming from Seattle, where it's like you wear pants and you're like, astaghfirullah. Like that's like worse than murder. You feel me? So like coming from that environment where it was like the smallest thing would like make you like non-Muslim, it shocked me, and it just made me realize that spirituality is not defined by what you look like or what you, you know what I mean, or like the way people perceive you. And so when I came back, that was one thing that definitely got me set on this journey of trying to learn more about Islam, because I was like, how are these people so constant and so like hold on to their faith so strongly, and we're over here, we have everything we need, we're blessed, alhamdulillah, and we struggle with the basics,
And like it's
rock paper scissors,
and just kind of like build off of all of this, like this is not to say like I'm like the most religious person or anything, but like when we were in college, they had like a a dance. It was like a whole dance. And like, the school gets hella food for school dances and things like that. And it was downtown, everybody was dressed up. It was a vibe, It was like my first year of college. I'm 18. I'm like, okay, cool, I went and did the most because it was like the 2000s theme. I had the gloves on, you feel me? Because I was like, okay, it's my first year in school. Like, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
And then, so me and my friend, at the end of the dance, we went and took all the food and started passing it out to the homeless people. Yeah. Like 2-3 weeks later, our friend did Shahada. Wow. And she was like, that was like one of the pivotal moments for me, because like, sure, we're in like a very like not good environment. Yeah. I mean, it's whatever. Yeah. It's a school dance. Yeah. Cool, whatever. But it was Islamically like maybe not like a good environment for like a Muslim to be in. But it was me and my friend, and she's East African as well. It was our actions that really made this non-Muslim, she's Muslim now, reflect and be like, only a Muslim would think about doing something like that. And she was like, I just watched the way you guys moved and the care and dedication and time you took and pride you took in your religion, and I loved it and I wanted to be a part of it. And I'm just like, really, Allah guides people in so many different ways. You feel me? Like somebody would be like, astaghfirullah that you were there, but it's like, bro, I'm glad we was there because
like someone to
that could have been something that you benefited from.
And clearly it did. It was just, we're just 18 trying to learn our religion and kind of balance everything out, and it's like, that's what life is. It's a journey. So
I definitely agree. But I think it takes like being in Dugsi and like learning the Quran, memorizing it. It's not. It's nothing. Like it's something, but it's nothing compared to like what everything that you go through in life, and like you're like, wow,
this is what it means to be a Muslim, you know? Just not, that's what Somali parents know and older folks know. Like, just take your child to Dugsi and khalas, that's it. Well, that means nothing, but everything you go through, you know, allow, like, Somali parents need to allow their children to experience their life, you know? Because it's like,
Literally.
if you tell me, Hoya, don't do this, like, it's better if I do it and find out for myself.
Why I should not be
And then,
doing
you know, that way it's like, wow, I'm closer to Allah, one, and two, I won't do it again.
Or at least explain why. There's no why. It's just don't do it.
Don't do it because I didn't do it.
That's
For all we know, because
Like, never in my family has anyone ever done this.
Why are Somalis
Or like dramatic, or like shunning.
You know, that like makes me cry. I'm just like, I'm not even mad. I just cry. I'm like, what does your family has to do with me? You know, it's like I'm my own person. Well, like, but Somali
technically you are part of the family, so maybe
They're all
don't break that. You know what I mean? But it's okay to make mistakes.
You will fall.
You will fall, and experience makes everything. You know what I mean? That's why they're not gonna hire you if you don't have experience.
You got 5 years of experience.
And that's why in the hadith, like it talks about how the Muslims in the future are gonna be rewarded more than the Sahabiyat because we have to deal with hell more BS.
A lot of times, it's okay. You know, people don't understand. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's just learn from your experience.
That's how you grow.
Don't be that person that repeats the same mistake 1,000 times. But it's okay even if you repeat it 1,000 times for people who don't learn the first time. You know,
If you're hard-headed,
it's okay. You know,
People don't really discuss about like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, you know?
People don't talk about
You're not
You
talking.
always talk, oh, you're gonna go to hell. You're gonna go, you know what I mean? Like all the like the violent parts of like our belief. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving. Like if you look at history, most merciful. More than a mother. Like imagine like if somebody wrongs you and you're never able to forgive them. And then you just imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to forgive you for all your sins. That's why I feel like a lot of Muslims too, like when you commit a sin, you're like, okay, I did something really bad. I know I shouldn't have. But like, am I worthy of like, you know what I mean? And it kind of pushes them to that because you're always told, you know, what you did is wrong. Allah's not gonna forgive you. Hell. And you're like, I might as well not do anything. Like there's no redemption for
that's
me.
what they
It's when you lose hope that
when you lose hope, and that's
really
when the
is
shaitan really takes over. He's like,
And, like,
there's no point.
Going off of what you're saying, I remember I listened to a lecture once by Yasmin Mujahid, and she said one of the first things that was like, I can't remember if she said it was like lessons that were taught to man about Islam is one of the first, I think, because I don't know my Quran that well, but one of the first ayats or something is basically, it talks about the rewards of Allah, then comes the punishment. So she was literally like, look how merciful God is. He starts off with saying, you're promised Jannah, you're promised like all these great things, and then I just need you to follow these things, and if you don't, this is what happens. It's more so like, but always remember like along the lines like this is the base. Like start off with, you're gonna get these amazing things, you know. All I ask of you is this, you know, and no matter what, as long as you always repent, you can always be forgiven. And
I think that's true.
The mercy.
Hadith by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said that like my entire ummah is gonna go to Jannah, except those that don't choose to follow it. And I feel like as Muslims, everybody wants to learn about Islam, you know what I mean? And everyone has different opportunities and different like resources to learn about the religion. But to know that no matter like you're promised a place in heaven as long as you're working towards, and that's the beauty of Islam. It's about like struggle and just like constantly bettering yourself. Because I don't think there's anybody that's perfect. Like everybody makes mistakes on a daily basis. We're inherently flawed.
are not perfect.
Don't let them so Hey Webb said something, and I literally, it was like this changed my, like, I wish everyone would understand, would hear this, because he said the masjid is a club for the righteous when it should be a hospital for the spiritually ill. When I heard that, like, it was just like that's what really
But I feel like when people are spiritually ill, like they turn away from the masjid.
But no, because the people
there is so judgmental.
The people are like that. It's a club for the righteous, so it's like it's our inner crew, and we all like are super halal and don't make any mistakes.
You're not, and if you're not, you're like shaitan.
Because like all of this stuff is told through the stories of the Prophet. Like there were these people that were arrogant. Do not be arrogant. And what do people do? They're doing the exact same thing.
So it's like little things, like people come to the masjid. Like I remember we went to Jum'ah one day at Masjid Noor with my mom, and these girls came from high school. They came from Franklin to Jum'ah prayer, and they were all wearing pants. And all the women started like
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. You know, they were just like making them feel hella bad. They were just staring at them, mugging them, you know? And one woman got so upset, bro. She stood at the front and she was like, you guys are all wrong. Fear Allah. You're making these girls not want to come back here. And then you wonder why they go elsewhere. Like, they can't even feel comfortable being themselves in the house of Allah, then where can they be comfortable?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's crazy is like if you study the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like the first 13 years of Islam was literally based off of spirituality.
Literally.
Like no laws were legislated until after Medina. 13 years of spirituality, 11 years of rules. And it's like even if you look at some of the ayat, like Allah didn't outwardly ban that company, you know. It was like don't come to prayer. Under
you can't
right. Everything was a
transition.
slow transition. Everything was a process because Allah knows the nature of human beings. He created us.
Exactly.
And so, like, it's funny because He gives us the Quran for reflection, but we don't reflect on it. Like if somebody comes to the masjid and like, I remember about my friend. She's Turkish. She doesn't wear hijab because in their Turkish community, a lot of them don't, and especially in the Dakota area.
It was originally like I think a long time ago it was banned.
So there's like historical
Yeah.
like ramifications for it, right?
Yeah.
Like that, so I brought her to the masjid, and everybody's like, "Don't bring her. Why is she not covering? She's in the house of Allah." And I said, "And she's a slave of Allah. She's a Muslim. Like she has every right to be here as much as you and I."
Yeah,
So
but
it's just
Somali
like
people confuse culture with religion.
Girl,
Culturally, you might hate that, but
religiously,
Allah did not say don't do this. Stop making that up. Well, I try to tell people that all the time. I'm like,
all the time.
just because you don't like it, just because your culture doesn't like it, does not
Doesn't mean it's part of the thing.
it's suddenly Allah said so. You know, people need to.
She never came back.
She never
She never came back.
She never came back.
To be honest, a lot of people they avoid certain masjids because
That's
like,
true.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it earlier.
Going off of the 13
I
years,
definitely
Like 13 years of like learning to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it much easier to follow the rules. Like if you believe in something, it's much easier for you to like follow the rules. You know what I mean?
We were literally talking about this last night. Like we literally don't teach the love of Allah. Like we treat Allah like I don't know, like he's just the Quran. Like that's just a book and that was it. You know what I mean? Not realizing this is a physical, active, alive force in our lives on a regular basis. You know? And I was telling somebody the other night. So my when you teach someone the deen differently, like so I have a niece. She's 5 years old, and when she was 3. It was just so interesting because like her dad's like super religious and he's like always at the masjid and he has like this very strict mentality, you know. But so when she was 3, she was scared of monsters and she would always be like, the monsters are gonna get me, like right before she gets to bed, you know. She'd freak out. So one day I told her, you know, who created you? And she's like, Allah. And I'm like, and who does Allah love? And she's like, me. And I'm like, and who created the monsters? And she's like, Allah. And I'm like, so would Allah do anything to harm you? And she's like, no, He loves me. Right? And I'm like, exactly, right? So we've been like practicing, like anytime something will happen, I'll remind her, like, who created you? And we'll like have this conversation over time, right? So now she's 5, right? And one day her mom like got really upset with her about something and like she was gonna hit her. And she literally like held on to herself and was like, Allah loves me, you can't hurt me.
Oh my God. You can't. You
And her mom got shocked and was just like she was like, I couldn't be mad. Like all the anger I had just went away. And like it's such a difference because we didn't have that growing up. You know what I mean? I remember feeling terrified about a lot of things. And if someone would just remind you that like when you instill love of Allah into a child, like that's something that is never going to be destroyed because Allah will never disappoint them. You know what I mean?
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
All right. The next question is, how has Islamophobia affected you?
Where to begin?
Yeah, where we starting?
That's gonna take another hour.